Hello everyone! It is back! The railway that loops itself toward infinity! The railway that loops itself toward infinity! The railway that... There we go. Now Railway 2 is permanently back in its BokGak form, locked to level 60. This video will guide you through its unique mechanics, before presenting every stations, and then my recommendations for each cycle, up to cycle 5, with some high cycles mentions. But talking about cycles, let's start with this railway's uniqueness. Railway 2 features 8 stations and a terminus, each station being a different fight. In the BokGak version, those stations are now a wave instead of a single fight. The goal is to beat every station, then go to the terminus to fight the boss. The thing is, previously, stations were in a set order, and the goal was to clear each station available to go to the next cycle, the cycle just being all stations available. In this one, cycles are predefined, however stations aren't always present nor in the same order until the 5th one, where they are all there in the previous order. So outside of the first station always being there, the second station will change depending on the cycle, same for the 5th, etc. After each cycle or fight, you'll be brought back to the start for the next cycle or fight, starting at station 1. A full run is considered complete after cycle 5, where you will have done all the stations and can build up the terminus for your rewards. You can technically get to the terminus beforehand, however to get all rewards you will have to clear cycle 5 at least. So if you followed, you'll understand you have 6 fights to do, 5 cycles and the terminus. After each one, the enemies will get stronger and you'll have to choose a buff for both you and them, similarly to Mirror Dungeon's floors. The buffs are predetermined, and you can choose any one you like for your side and one for the enemy. Just know that while you can accumulate your buffs, you can't pick the same one twice in a row. And for bosses, you will have to pick each of the 5 once before picking them again. In a regular run, it just means picking them all once and you choose the order. Picking them again is only relevant for high cycle, so when you plan to go above cycle 5, repeating the same fight. Why would you do that? Just to challenge yourself really. Unfortunately, those aren't recorded, and not on your new banner, so no bragging rights on your board. But anyway, that's about it. In between cycles, your sinners get healed and revived, conserving positive SP and ego resources, so you can stack early and don't need to redo your whole setup after the first cycle. And that's it for the mechanics. Fighting the same Amnos several times can get a bit tedious, but believe me, it was way worse back then. Before going into stations details, let me make a small presentation of buffs. Those are pretty much the same as back then. You still have the damage buffs, one for each sin affinity, and a smaller one for each physical type. You are of course incentivized to take those you have a lot of. For a simple example, in current Burn Scorch team, taking Wrath and Slash is great because most nukes there now are Wrath and Slash. Next you have the buffs for each status, the negative one inflicting 1 potency per buff stack each turn, as well as 1 count. And then the charge one giving charge count to your IDs, and the poise one 2 potency and 2 count. Taking one of the statuses you might be using can be good as a stack start, and just to add count every turn. However, there's not many reasons to take more of those, as the potency stack isn't as valuable unless you take a lot of them. You'll stack potency more quickly from your IDs, and can enjoy better damage from the previous buffs. This doesn't apply to charge and poise though, as charge count every turn can be good if your IDs are struggling, but usually you don't need more than 2 to 6 max per turn. For poise, it can however just give free crits to your IDs, adding some static multiplayer damage, so it can be good to stack, especially for some IDs liking it. That's about it for the buffs, as there aren't that many. I recommend taking mostly your main sin damage, with in between either your main physical type, a status you're using, or a single poise buff, even if you aren't playing poise IDs. Now for enemy debuffs, here they are. Depending on your priority, there are different orders you can take them in. However, here are a few recommendations. Opportunistic is the easiest first choice. The buff only procs if the enemy didn't take any damage for a turn, which is very unlikely. Then Inhaling increases their healing, which rarely happen outside Fairy Gentlemen, and heal when they deal damage. But most of the time, they shouldn't damage you unless you're sacrificing some IDs and the healing is not too relevant anyway. In the same way, Accelerating can be a bit awkward if they wanna roll max speed, but doesn't impact you much otherwise. The last two have more of a direct impact. Hardening increasing HP and slot weight should be kept for last if you wanna save turns, as it would just make fights longer. Thirsting can impact you more or less depending on the egos you use, but you're likely to use some, and therefore should be delayed as much as possible too. So now that we've made a complete tour of the mechanics and buffs, let's move on to the meat of things. I'll go through each station individually first, in the order you first see them, and then end with cycles. So let's start with the beginning as usual, and let's talk about the doll, so that no one will cry. No, that's its name. You'll start every cycle by fighting this doll, and the fight itself isn't too complicated. Its main mechanic is to inflict you with Entangled Curse Talisman with its skills. Said talisman will actually slightly buff your damage, but will debuff you if stacked too high. It will also empower some of its skills, notably inflicting you with regular talisman. It doesn't have its burn passive, for those wondering. On its third turn, it will use Transferring Talisman, protecting itself. Being targeted by it will remove talisman from your ID and convert it to reattached Curse Talisman on itself, harshly debuffing it. The goal is to transfer as many of it as possible by making sure you're targeted back by the blocks, as on the following turn it will use its nuke, so that no one will cry, several times, which can be scary if you didn't debuff it beforehand. And that's pretty much the whole fight. It has two parts, the body and the arm. The arm has lower HP and a higher stagger threshold, so focusing it for damage is advised. The blocks on the third turn will give it protection, so avoid bursting them. You can delay them, however, by staggering the body if you feel like it, but otherwise guaranteeing a kill on turn 4 by focusing the arm is safe. It's mostly weak to Wrath, Gloom and Blunt, so Burn and Sinking are some good archetypes against it. It also has a passive highly increasing the sinking it receives, so it's really good against it. Know that you will fight this one at the start of every fight except the Terminus, so prepare accordingly. Now let's move on to the second wave, Steam Transport Machine, aka One Punch Machine, the most tedious enemy to fight. Its gimmick is that it has a status, Accumulated Past, which boosts it the more it has, and the status value is equal to the number of turns in your run. Yeah, there are quite a few fun gimmicks like this. Here it increases its power for every 80 turns, with one more slot past the first 80. It also gets fragile and damage up on odd values, and protection and damage down on even, so it alternates between defense and attack mode. It's obviously recommended to attack it on attack mode when it has fragile. Now this machine has two parts, the body and the Steam Blaster. The Steam Blaster can be severed, and once it is, the machine will get fragile when getting poise, which it gets a lot of. So the way to boost your damage is to break the blaster and then the body. However, you cannot overkill the blaster, so be careful. The body is very annoying, as once destroyed, it will consume Accumulated Past and make every scene resist 0.5, before making the type resist 0.5 as well on the following turn, making it incredibly resilient. The goal is then to burst it as much as possible as you break it, while it still has the fatal type weaknesses. Then you will have to rely on the fragile, and that's about it. What's even more annoying is that while it has Accumulated Past and bodies below 80% HP, it will consume it to heal, making the fight even more tedious. Like the doll before, it has a passive increasing sinking received, so while it resists Gloom, sinking is not a bad choice. Otherwise it's weak to Envy, Blunt and mostly to Sloth, so any Envy team or Tremor can deal well with it, until its body is broken at least. A mention for Time Moratorium, which not only highly increases your damage due to the Sloth's weakness, will delay the damage, unleashing all of it at once and avoiding its annoying resistances once broken. From this point, some enemies will limit some of your statuses as well, this one being Burn and Bleed. A last thing, its skills and passives scale from Accumulated Past infinitely, meaning that if you're ever going for high cycles, past a certain amount of turns, it will one-shot any of your IDs, to add on top of its annoying resilience, making it the worst enemy of this railway. Luckily, in a regular run, it's not as much of an issue, and you only fight it 3 times. But now let's move on to the third station, and final wave of the first cycle, the Drifting Fox. Poor thing. Anyway, it will use a skill rotation, switching between mostly heads or bodies attacks, before defending on turn 3 and unleashing its AoE skill on turn 4. The thing with turn 3 is its block will decrease all your Sinner's SP, very annoying, and its counters will grant it thorns, reflecting half of the damage it takes. Very, very annoying. But on this turn, you might wanna do something else. Its railway gimmick is that it will start the fight with Protection Umbrella, its value equal to 2 plus the cycle number for a maximum of 6. The Fox will get protection equal to this value, making it tankier. On turn 3, while defending, it will spawn as many umbrellas on the field, which will try to inflict you with sinking and rupture. If you can't kill the fox by then, your goal will be to destroy the umbrellas, debuffing the fox in the process and removing its protection umbrellas. Its AoE, Cries Sinking Something, will gain power from surviving umbrellas, so it's advised to destroy as many as possible before then, as it will also reduce its protection for the turn. Unfortunately, it will get the protection umbrellas back after that. The best thing to do overall is try to bypass that with damage. Below 50% HP, it will spam AoEs with Unbreakable Winds now, so it's recommended to finish it as soon as possible then. It's weak to Pierce on the body and Slash on the head, both to Gluttony and Gloom, so even if Rupture and Sinking are capped, they are still good archetypes for it. It's also weak to Bleed, so you can try that as well. It will get more resistant as cycles go on, so try to find a way to have high burst turns, possibly relying on status damage to bypass the protection. So those three constitute the first cycle, and we'll come back here and there. Well, the doll's always first, and the machine ends the second cycle, but you have two new enemies to face in between. The first one on wave 2 is Fairy Gentleman. This fat fuck follows up by being pretty simple. Like many others, it has two parts, the left arm and the body, the arm being the more fragile part. It will launch a few skills, notably this one which will heal if it hits, so try to avoid that. After taking enough damage, it will use Swig, which will spawn a Fairy Wine Glass on the following turn, while using Evade on the body. Letting it on the field will buff and heal the Fairy on the following turn, while breaking it will reduce your ID's clash power instead, making some of them specifically tipsy. Those should then clash with his skill on the following turn. I'll have this, taking 0 damage and staggering the Fairy on the following turn. So interact with the gimmick if you need to, while draining its HP. Overall pretty simple if you prevent it from healing. It's weak to Pierce, Wrath and Envy, making it a good target for Burn or Envy comps. It caps Bleed and Tremor while increasing Rupture as well. You'll see this one every cycle from now on, so have fun. But starting cycle 4 it won't be alone, as it will bring its friend, Fairy Long Legs. It mostly adds a second target to the fight, with 3 parts, the head being pretty fragile with multiple staggers, breaking it also reducing its defense level. Similarly, after taking enough damage it will summon a Giant Clover, which will empower both fairies for every turn it's on the field. So if you're having trouble killing them quickly, get rid of it. It is way frailer than its friend, however while the Clover is there it will spam a counter giving it protection, so if you can't get rid of it quickly before or after it spawns its Clover, you might really wanna get rid of it. Otherwise its debuffs and bleed can be annoying, but nothing horrible. It has the same status interactions and is still weak to Envy, however replaces its Pierce weakness by Slash and Wrath by Pride. You might want and have an easier time to kill it before the Gentleman. Once you kill both, you can move on to the next waves. But back to cycle 2, where the third wave after the single Fairy is another very annoying enemy, Shock Centipede, the Undying. The bug's gimmick is to have self-charge, literally. On the first turn it will coil up, getting a big shield on its head and charging. You have a choice between letting it charge and hit its body part, which has 3 protection while the head isn't broken, or go for the shield, which would prevent its charge gain, and on the following turn stagger it while also removing its charge and inflicting fragile. So if you can afford removing the shield in one turn, it could be a good investment. Otherwise its pattern is relatively basic, mixing up base skills with high damage AoE, so be careful of what you're clashing against, and if you win your clashes you should be fine, even if its paralysis infliction can be annoying. The main thing it's known for though is its last stand. When its HP drops to 0, it will survive for the turn and gain some self-charge. It will then start launching strong skills while being invincible, set skills consuming charge, until it drops to 0 charge and dies. The way to make its charge drop even more is simply to equip defense skills and let them hit it, as it will lose more charge against targets with them. It will also lose more on Clash Lose, but it's harder to do with clashable defense skills in general, and it's at your risk against high rolling skills. So just simply endure its last struggle and you'll be fine. It's weak to Sloth and mostly Gloom, the body weak to Pierce and the head to Blunt. So Tremor and Sinking related stuff is good. It resists Bleed and Tremor, but can give more charge to your ID, though it will also grant it charge as well, so it's not risk free. So that's it for the enemies in cycle 2, and for cycle 3 you'll see one new station, this time featuring not Amnos, but Corp members. 2 of them. Those are relatively simple. They are charged enemies that will try to inflict you with numerous debuffs, and especially interlocking time, which functions like a small time moratorium, stocking some of the damage taken to burst it later. The one annoying thing they have is their golden time. If they end the turn with their HP between 6 and 24%, they will heal most of their HP and recover from stagger. It only happens once, but once is enough to be annoying. They would then get fragile, but that doesn't compensate. So the best thing you can do is manage your damage well enough to avoid this range. This means either killing them or avoid inflicting too much damage. Well, it's not always easy to predict damage in this game, so just do your best. As long as you can clash, they aren't really a menace. They are only weak to pierce, so just use what you can in general. They cap rupture and sinking while being weak to burn, though resistant to wrath. A tendency. But last know that you will see them in Cycle 5, where there will be 2 waves of them, but nothing more special. Now moving on to Cycle 4. You'll see the fairy duo as mentioned before, but mostly the last 2 Amnos left outside the Terminus. The first one is Faelantern. Faelantern has 2 phases, the first one being where it's buried, only letting the fairy out to lure up to 4 of your sinners so they can't attack. The goal is simply to destroy the fairy with the remaining sinners, which will make the body come out. Know that damage on the fairy will not damage the core. Then it's simply a question of dealing as much damage to it as possible in a turn before it buries again. When burying, it will remove debuffs on itself, so don't count on setting up statuses, as you will have to mostly rely on raw damage or one-turn setups. When staggered though, it won't bury at the end of the turn, so if you can stagger it, you'll get a bit more time to beat it up. Otherwise, be careful of its skills. It has low coins but many AoEs rolling high, so it can get annoying if not dealt with, and clashing with it isn't easy. It gives some poise when destroying the fairy, so nice for your poise IDs if you have any. It's weak to Pride, Lust and Slash, so poise bleed combinations work pretty well, especially poise IDs. As for the last new station you'll encounter at the end of Cycle 4, it's Wayward Passenger. The zooming goat has arrived. Like a few others, this one works like its last version. At the end of the first turn, and every few turns afterward, it will open 4-dimensional portals of different colors before exiting the field. You've got 1 free turn to destroy the portals, each weak to the scene based on their color, before it starts attacking from them. Once they are closed, it will come back, and if they have stayed more than a turn, will get buffs depending on the portals opened on the second turn. That's its base mechanic. On the field, it's also known for its counters, which you have to be careful of, its few AoEs, and mostly for its high speed rip space. Well, that's if you see those. It has 2 blades for parts, each with a stagger threshold. So usually, with high enough damage, you can stagger the blades and deal high amounts of damage to skip its mechanics. This especially includes its portal mechanic, which will be deactivated once it drops below 60% HP for more aggressive pattern, using rip spaces if the arms aren't broken. So usually you would just damage rush it. Otherwise it functions as a charge enemy, gaining some bit by bit to empower its rip space, and losing it when losing clashes or losing its arms. It's weak to Lust and Gluttony, so bleed and rupture related teams. It does cap burn and rupture however, while being weak to Tremor, so Hemorrhage and Affiliates are good choices. So we've seen now all the stations available, Cycle 5 and above bringing them all back one last time in their order from the original Railway 2. Nostalgic. But it's time to head towards the end, the Terminus, and fight the last Amno of this railway, Sign of Roses. And this time, you won't just one-turn it. So if you've forgotten how its gimmick works, it's time for a recap. It will start the fight by using To the Garden of Infinity, applying Crown of Thorns to your sinners. This status will make a rose spawn for each sinner, the color corresponding to the sin they have the most skills of. So most likely your skill 1. Again, it is for each status, meaning that if you have only 3 of them, only 3 roses will spawn. How does this happen? Well, simply if the affected sinners die during the turn. But back to the roses. They'll drain your ego resources every turn, alongside healing the sign, and most importantly, reduce your sinner's max HP by 25%, meaning that after 4 turns, the sinner will die. So the goal is to kill them quickly enough to free your sinners from their rose, healing them back, and avoid them healing the sign. This will also debuff the boss skills, remove the boss protection so you can damage it, and once they're all dead, it will make a check happen, where you can accept or refuse its help. Refusing will reduce the damage dealt and taken by everyone, just making the fight longer, while accepting will ask for a check on the sinner's skill 3. Clearing it will increase damage dealt and taken of its affinity for everyone. so it's advised to do so with the scene you do have the most damage with. Usually with the railway buffs, you probably have one already buffed. Now there are a few more gimmicks with the roses, each of them having their own unique passive. Wrath reflects damage on kill with Sunburn, the most annoying one. Sloths get protection on the following turn of being hit. Gluttony gets Rupture Fragility when not dealing damage. Yes, it exists apparently. Gloom acts like Sloth but also reduces its Gloom weakness. Pride just has a counter, and Lust and Envy have nothing. They all use the keyword associated to their sin and gain power the more different of them there are. Well, overall they are pretty frail, so just do your best to kill them. The slot weight increase buff can be annoying for that though. Once they all dead, you'd want to deal with the sign quickly, as it will spawn them back after 2 turns. When the sign is below 40% HP or the roses are left alive for 2 turns, they will get empowered, playing even more on their status. So another reason to kill them. Well, you get it. Kill roses quickly and rush the boss. As for the boss, it has 2 parts and you can target whichever. There are benefits to break each, but usually by the time they are broken it doesn't matter much. The sign has less HP, meaning it will break and get vulnerable earlier. It will also reduce roses' max HP, so you will kill them more easily if you still need to. There's no particular weakness, so using whatever had the most buffs through the railway is safer, otherwise going for Sinking or Rupture Rush or even Trimmer mix combos. Alright, we've seen all cycles now, and even the terminus, but let's get back to cycles once more, as I now get on each fight's composition and what are the recommendations. Though you might have some guesses. First cycle is the classic, So That No One Will Cry, Steam Transport Machine, and Drifting Fox. Weaknesses are overall pretty balanced, with only one being present on 2 of them being Gloom. Considering that while resisting Gloom, Steam Machine gets more sinking on itself, it's also good against it, so sinking is one of the best teams you can use here. After that, it's harder to justify a team as a whole. Assault Spiders or Scorch team can deal well with the first and third wave, but Steam Machine can be annoying. Similarly for middle, having a good time against wave 1 and 2, but not too much against the Fox. Then stuff like Rupture and Slash, Tremor being awkward, etc. So while the fights aren't hard, if you wanna clear it faster, you would need a really solid team at least, Sinking or Ryoshu standing out. Also, I'm warning you now, Ryoshu works everywhere. Going on to cycle 2, you'll start taking buffs, so you would want to have a team that can benefit from whatever you're gonna play and potentially keep it for other cycles. If it's not for this cycle, then the next one. Here we have the Doll, Fairy Gentleman, Shock Centipede, and Steam Machine. Again, Sinking is great here, all being nose again, but also Centipede being weak to Gloom, leaving only the Fairy to deal with a bit more carefully. In the same way, both Centipede and Steam Machine are weak to Sloth, making Tremor Reverb setups and especially Time Moratorium really good for both, so you could think of a Sinking Tremor mix for example. Other teams have a bit more trouble here and there, except for Blade Ryoshu and affiliates slashing all. Third cycle has Doll, Corp, Fairy Gentleman, and the Fox. Now we're introducing Sanity fights, making Sinking, well, still good, but slower. There's no resistance to Pierce overall, and actually weaknesses, so some Poise Pierce setups can be nice. Otherwise not many mix-ups for statuses, though Scorch can work well by being both Burn and Tremor for Corp and Fairies, as well as Wrath for the Doll, while skills like Radiant Disposal can be used to finish Corp. Otherwise, Ryoshu as usual. Fourth cycle has the Punching Bag, Faelantern, Double Fairies, Corp again, and Wayward Passenger. Again a mix of weaknesses without a clear word in sight. Corps are the only one resistant to Wrath though, and are weak to Burn, so Scorch once again deals with this wave overall pretty well, and Ryoshu stuff too. Just have to be careful of Faelantern charm mechanic. Due to the differences between fights, some A-shows switch shenanigans could be nice as well, but less consistent in terms of buffs, and just still relying on Gluttony and Rupture. Last cycle has all the stations in this order. So That No One Will Cry, Steam Transport Machine, Drifting Fox, Corp 2 times, Faelantern, Shock Centipede, both Fairies, and Wayward Passenger. Fighting all of them in a single fight. Well, that's what you've been preparing for during the last 4 cycles, getting buffs to make your final team work in all stations. So here, I'd recommend a specific team. And that's where I'll just give advice for the whole thing. Outside of cycle 1 or 2 for setups, starting cycle 3 you should be using close to the same team to benefit from the buffs. This means the best choice of team is simply the one strong enough to pass all of the stations. So the best choices then are strong teams able to last for 9 waves. That includes teams that have been strengthened for the past 2 seasons. It shows Rupture, Sinking, Middle and Envy comps, Poison Blade Lineage, Burn and Tremor for Scorch team. The thing is, most stations aren't particularly hard, they are mostly longer with stalling mechanics. So your goal is to try to rush through all of this, and for that you will need to be able to set up a strong offense that will tear through any station. The important part is then to know how your team works, how you can maximize your damage, and go for it. The addition of unbreakable coins do mean you might take some damage bit by bit, but with a healing ego it can be fixed easily. And I've kept it for last, but if you wanna just tear through it all, just play also Spider Ryushu with the Scorch team. Get your ID skilled, get 3 slots on Ryushu, by setting up for like 4 turns against the doll, and then just shred everything. Efficiency, guaranteed. Now, as I've already talked about the Terminus, so again, rush with one of the combo statuses or play what you've been playing until then, I'll end up by talking about ice cycles. If you're interested in trying to go as high as possible and see how ridiculous things can get, you can keep doing cycles after the 5th one for as long as you wish, with no limit except your Sinner's HP. Stations won't change anymore and you'll get the same fight every cycle, but just harder and harder. What you can expect past a certain point are damage increasing bit by bit, max speed for potentially insane rolls, ego resources cost for egos using like 30 scenes, offense level increase meaning impossible clashes, defense level increase meaning slight reduction of your damage, AoEs not being AoEs anymore, slight increase of HP, and severe hit rate against top enemies, notably Steam Transport Machine. Since the goal there isn't to go fast but high, you might want to take it slower from the start. The reason is mostly to build up your resources, so you can actually use egos when they cost 30 scenes, and you would want to use them for clashes because you can't do otherwise. In the recommendations, then, when going for ice cycles, it'd be ways to get back your HP, as they'll drop faster and faster, meaning some healing egos, but mostly evades, to be able to not take said damage in the first place. Some of the strats for fights might change, including being more careful of Wayward Passenger's counters, making sure you can break Faelantern's Fairy in 1 turn, potentially having sacrifices for the machine, or at least making sure you can clash, and not just defending against Shock Centipede's last struggle, but clashing or evading, as even if it deals minus 100% damage, if it has 200% damage buffs, you will still be severely hurt. There's no goal there, as there is no end, just whatever goal you feel like going for. And the higher you wanna go, the more likely it is that Blade Ryushu is mandatory. For buffs, just keep taking relevant damage ones with 1 or 2 statuses along the way. And the last advice I can say for ice cycles is good luck. Well, that's gonna be it for this guide. I'll conclude with my thoughts on the Railway. I've seen quite a few people saying it's tedious, but I've still been enjoying it. Probably because I've known the first version, which was like 10 times worse. But I've been enjoying the fights mix-ups, which made the cycles themselves more varied, with the last one being the finish. The doll being the first wave every time was redundant though. The issue is more that stations are not hard, they don't challenge you much like a Nurse Father or Yinglong does by beating your ass. The stations have more stalling mechanics, with lots of protection or healing, that in the end can feel frustrating because you're not even challenged ready, which makes the whole experience tedious. But well, I've still had fun, and was happy to see some fights again in their regular form like Wayward Passenger or the Fairies, and even the Steam Machine, even if it's still so annoying. Well, maybe a bit of nostalgia. But anyway, this Railway will conclude this season as next one draws near. Well, more like 2 months of drought incoming with most likely disappointing banners. Good luck! And that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Final message, another Railway, another guide, another season coming to a close. Well, there's still some time left. I'll take it for some other projects of mine, but as for videos for the remainder of the season, you can expect the season review as usual, close to the end of it, and before that an analysis on Modern ID's design with all the crazy stuff we got this season. Subscribe, etc. for what's coming, and for next season as well. In any case, see you next time, and keep your sanity high in this slow descent into the inferno.